Hi, this is Tyson Beukeboom, and welcome to the Canadian Ruck.
And welcome back to the Canadian Ruck. This is Jamie Gray coming to you from New Brunswick, Canada. And this pod, as you guessed it from the little intro there, we have Canadian national Tyson Beukeboom. Tyson's going to talk to us about her journey. Tyson debuted for Canada at the 2013 Nations Cup. Already has 33 caps for Canada. She's also repped Canada 2 Rugby World Cups, and she was a member of that amazing silver medal squad of 2014 in France, and she also went to Ireland in 2017. You're going to hear a little bit about those later on. She also played for St. FX here in the Maritimes, a good maritime rugby program there at St. FX out in Nova Scotia. She produced a great number of players over the year. In 2012, she was the 2012 CIS Female Athlete of the Year. So we're glad and proud to have Tyson Beukeboom join us today. Before we get to Tyson, we got to do a little plugging here. As always, love when you feedback. Twitter and Instagram's been getting some good feedback lately. You contact us. We're on the Twitter at Canadian Ruck. We're on the Instagram at _Canadian_Ruck. We also have a Facebook group at the Canadian Ruck. Make sure that if you're on Facebook, you search that out and sign up and join up. And if you need to contact me on the Gmail, it's thecanadianruck@gmail.com. We're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on CastBox. Lots of places for you to stream while you're listening, out for a drive or mowing the lawn or soon to be, snow blowing. But we're lots of places where you can listen to the audio. We're also on YouTube too. If it's a rainy day, like it looks like it's going to be here this morning, it's Saturday morning in New Brunswick, and it's overcast. It might be a day where you want to pull it up on YouTube so you can actually see the athlete or the guest and their facial expressions, and a lot of fun conversations that we have over Zoom that we can play for you here. If you're looking, if you have friends that are looking for great Canadian rugby content or just rugby content in general, send them to our website, thecanadianruck.weebly.com. We've got all our pods hosted there. There's the YouTube links, there's the Spotify links, there's past guest information, there's upcoming guest information, and also my favorite rugby podcast that I like to listen to. So you can direct them there. Just check it out yourself. There's also a page there that has information about our swag. We get our hats, we get our hoodies, and we also have some winter toques that are on sale right now. What's going on in the world of rugby? There's been a few things, and this is Saturday morning. I think Ireland and Italy are playing in a little bit. I'm going to be watching that game with my oldest. That'll be fun. He's a huge Ireland fan. I do enjoy watching Irish play, so that'll be a fun adventure. But on the international side, aside from that upcoming match, the women's 2021 Rugby World Cup draw is happening on November 20th in Auckland, New Zealand. It's the 9th Rugby World Cup on the female side. It's the first being held in the Southern Hemisphere, which is momentous. It's going to be September 16th, October 18th, 2021. So that'll be really cool. Hopefully the COVID is gone by then. So not only can the players be there, but those stadiums can be packed. Already there are 12 teams. There's going to be 12 teams in total. 9 have already been gained entrance. Canada being one of those that are in the top 9. The final 3 will be a qualifier, one from Asia, one from Europe, and then there's going to be a qualification tourney, and the winner of that will be the third entrance in, be the last 12, the 12th. The drawing is going to determine the final groupings for these 3 qualifiers. Right now, they're in bands, and Canada's band is with New Zealand and England, so that is a pretty tough, stiff band for Canada to be in. But I know our girls are going to be battling hard, and they're going to come out there. And if you're interested, the draw is going to be live streamed. So if you want to see what other teams are going to be in with Canada, it's going to be live streamed to watch. And as we know, South Africa pulled out of the Rugby Championship, and they've kind of rebranded it back to the 3 Nations. So 3 Nations it is. Only 6 matches instead of 12, and it's going to be on 6 consecutive Saturdays, starting on Halloween, October 31st, running until December 5th. The Bledisloe Cup is going ahead as normal. New Zealand is up with 1 win and 1 draw. That 16-all draw with Australia, which was an interesting match. And then last weekend was a 27-7, I believe, win for New Zealand. New Zealand's in the driver's seat, but that game could have went either way. New Zealand ran in some points for sure, but Australia, as you watched, had two call back, and rightfully so, but they were right in that game. It was a pretty interesting match. Australia's got some young guns on offense and some really good young talent. And in a few years, they're going to be a beauty squad. Argentina are definitely the underdogs. They're scrappy. They could pull off some upsets. I think they're just looking. They're happy to be playing some rugby and getting some money. And lastly, in the news, and I posted this out on social media, but drinking in Wales, yeah, it looks like the Welsh Rugby Union has created their own craft beer. I think this is a fabulous idea. Rugby beer, two common ideologies. It's you think of rugby, you think of the social afterwards, and they just kind of go hand in hand. If you're younger, if you're under the age of drinking, you know, a lot of clubs, my high school team does, and I know Blau Bears do with Grand Beckenham, we bring, you know, Gatorade or pop or water so that the players can actually enjoy that rugby atmosphere where you share a drink with your opposite number after the game, and realize that rugby is more than just the 80 minutes on the pitch. It's the camaraderie aspect after. And Wales is taking that step further where they're branding a little bit with some local craft breweries and doing this. And I think Rugby Canada needs to get on board this train. Um, you know, we talked a couple pods ago about cuts at Rugby Canada and people losing their jobs, Al Sharon being one of them. But this is a great way maybe for a money-making endeavor, maybe not enough to bring back, you know, employees. Would be nice if they could, but it's a great way to maybe pump some money into the men's program, the women's program, the sevens program, the grassroots levels. I think there's a lot of ways this money could be used if they branded. You know, I've had a couple of people say, yeah, Steam Whistle could do it. And out here in the East, we've got, you know, Moose Head Breweries, which is the largest beer or the oldest beer company in Canada. Molson's here, Labatt's here. There's tons of different places, and there's tons of craft beer companies that would probably love to jump on board. Saying that gets us to our gray area, and I like this one. It's not a serious one. It's a fun one, but I want to hear what are some names that Rugby Canada could use if they begin a craft beer. Would it be named after positions? Would it be like the second row Pilsner? You know, something simple like that. Would it be named after teams, like maybe the 91 World Cup team that, you know, arguably Canada's top international performance ever? Maybe it's the 91 Cream Ale, the cream of the top ale, cream of the crop ale. I kind of like named after players. I think it kind of gives a little shot. I like the team aspect, but what about Magley's Malt Ale? That's Magley's Malt Ale after Magley Harvey, or the DTH Dark Draft, or in honor of our guest today and her cousin who was on a few weeks ago, the Beukeboom Best Bitter. That'd be a nice one. Or Biden's Barley. How about for a couple New Brunswick guys, Cole, Keith, and Chauncey too, about the Cole and Chauncey Celtic Craft? Or I like this one as well, the Dark and Stormy Moonlight Ale for Johnny Moonlight. All right, so those are just some names that I thought up at the top of my head. Then I thought, okay, this could be fun. I want to hear from you. Let's hear some of your names for Rugby Canada craft beer. And what I want you to do is throw your idea up on Instagram or Twitter. Sorry, not Titter. You can if you want. I don't know where it's going to go. Or Facebook, or even email it to me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to piece them together, and we're going to have like a playoff. So, you know, if person X and person Y send me names, they're going to have a playoff, and whichever name garners the most vote, that is going to continue. It's kind of like just a little tourney until we get to the end, and whoever wins is going to win a Canadian Ruck toque. I don't know if you can see that, but there is our beautiful Canadian Ruck toque. If you're on YouTube, you can take a look. It is a beauty. Thank you to Chandler Sales for doing those up quickly. There's already been one winner. Jenna Eisner in Nova Scotia has won a toque, and I'll be sending hers in once my shipment comes in. But yeah, this is your chance to have a little fun. Maybe promote Rugby Canada and go at them. Say, hey, do this. Partner up with a beer company, make some beer, name it after some players, name it after some teams, what have you. Generate some interest, generate some revenue, and have a little fun at the same time. So throw your topics up there. Throw who you think you would like to hear some good rugby names on a beer. You know, maybe it's the Boiler Room, what have you. The Dark Arts, the Front Row. Like, you're all very creative people. I try to be because I'm a teacher, but it's a Saturday, so my creativity is still asleep in the bed right now. But it will eventually come back. Anyway, be a little fun, but we're going to get to it now. Had a great conversation with Tyson Beukeboom about a week and a half ago. She's sitting on her front porch out in BC, enjoying the nice weather, sipping her coffee. And it was a great conversation. She's a great lass, and you're going to enjoy her story. So stay tuned, and Tyson's coming right up. All right, Tyson, welcome to the Canadian Ruck. This is Jamie, and we're very excited to have you here today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
All right. So let's get right into this. Let's hear your origin story. Like, you were born in Edmonton, moved to Nova Scotia, you attended St. FX, and a few of my female guests have actually gone to St. FX. And on top of that, your father is a former NHLer. Like, in my era, like, I grew up watching hockey in the 80s, 90s, and stuff like that. And your dad was one of those guys I watched. You had a great hockey career at St. FX in high school. How did you translate that, or how did you get involved in rugby when hockey was such a passion in your family?
Oh man. So yeah, obviously growing up, I played hockey. Just came by it naturally because my dad playing in the NHL. I was born in Edmonton, like you said. Was only there for a couple months, and then he was traded to New York. Grew up in New York until I was 9. Started playing hockey there. And then we moved back to Ontario, which is where my parents are from. And continued playing hockey. And I hadn't even heard of rugby until I was 14. Didn't even know what it was. And my cousin, actually, who I'd played a bunch of sports with, she was like, oh, you should come play rugby. And I was like, what is that? Never heard of it. What is that? She's like, I don't really know, but all I know is that you're allowed to hit people. And my response was like they're not going to get me in trouble for that. Being a very large kid, I got in a lot of trouble in hockey, women's hockey, doing that. So she's like, yeah, you can hit them as hard as you want and you won't get in trouble. I was like, awesome, I'm in. So I went out to my first practice, had absolutely no idea what I was doing, was just going 100%, and then got into my first game, and I was playing 8-man, and their 8-man picked off the scrum, and all I knew is that I had to hit her. She came around the scrum. I lined her up, and I hit her as hard as I could. But I'd only ever seen hits in hockey. So I just dropped my shoulder into her as hard as I could.
You got a penalty?
Oh, yeah. And the ref's like, you can't do that. And I was like, what? I thought I was allowed
told
to hit
I could. Fair enough.
And the ref's like, no, like, you can hit them. You just have to wrap. And I was like, oh, okay. I can do that. And, like, from that moment, I was sold. I was like, this is the sport for me. And then, I was still playing hockey at the time. I was playing junior women's hockey in Ontario. And at that time, I was still, like, dead set. I'm going to the Olympics for hockey, which is quite a far-fetched dream.
You mean not everybody that plays hockey makes it the NHL or the Olympics?
Yeah, crazy, right?
Is that true?
Yeah, it's crazy. So I decided to go out to the Ontario U17 tryout, and I was just like, whatever, we'll see what happens. My coach the year before had told me that I should, but I was too nervous. I didn't really feel like I knew the game at all, and I didn't go. And then the next year I was like, okay, I'll go. I was 16 at this point. So I went out, tried out. Thought I did pretty well. The coaches were talking to me afterwards, and they're like, oh, like, where are you from? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, yeah, I just decided to come out. I'm a hockey player. We kind of talked, and it somehow came about that hockey was number one. And at the same time, I was trying out for the Ontario hockey team, and I'd made it to the second round for that. And I was like, okay, like, I need to make a decision here. I'm going to stick to hockey. And then the rugby coach called me, and he's like, you need to keep playing rugby. I was like, what? Why? He's like, you need to play rugby. I was like, okay, I'll think about it. He's like, and his line, and I vividly remember it, and I also vividly remember being like, okay, you're just blowing smoke. He said to me, if you play rugby, you will be on the national team one day. And I just, like, kind of brushed it off, but it stuck. And I was like, okay, maybe this is something I need to do just to see what happens. So enough, yeah. I decided to play that year, and here I am.
That's awesome. So talk to us about that too, because you went to St. FX. It's it's about 4 hours from where I am. Nice, really nice school. Actually, where I work, it seems if you went to St. FX, you get hired as a teacher at my school. It seems to be one of those correlate. I'm not
Yeah.
sure why. But you played hockey and rugby there, correct?
Yeah.
So how did that work? Two highly combative sports, very intense schedules for both, all the while, doing your university degree. How does that work for you? How did that
Yeah.
work for you?
Yeah. So high school, I was still dead set on playing both, even though I had mostly committed to rugby at that point. I was like, I'm going to university. I was still in love with hockey and rugby and was not ready to make a decision one way or the other. So when I was looking for universities, I got in contact with a couple of coaches on the rugby side, and I said to them, if I come, I also want to play hockey. And pretty much everyone I spoke to was on board with that, and just trying to make sure that I understood the demands of that, which I thought I did. I didn't. So yeah, and I went on a visit to a couple schools, and I got to St. FX. I got off the plane. Mike picked me up, who was a coach, and I was off the plane for 10 minutes, hadn't even seen the campus. He took us for lunch. There was 3 of us, I think, that had come in from Ontario, and I was sold. I was like, well, this is where I'm going. I kind of knew I wanted to get away from home just to kind of experience that kind of lifestyle. And yeah, within 10 minutes of being off the plane, I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to school. And then we got on campus, and within 5 minutes of being on campus, I was like, well, I'm definitely going here now.
Yeah.
And it was at that point just a matter of trying to make that work. And Mike was awesome. And so was Ticker, the hockey coach at the time. It was a very, very easy transition for me. They made my life very easy. And I just played rugby at the beginning. The first up until November was the end of CIs, which is now U Sport. Mm-hmm. And then got off the plane from nationals, and that night went to my first hockey practice.
It's nice though, because they work so well. I mean, you're using different muscles, and mm-hmm. and the sports are, I mean, they're similar in that they're a transition sport. Yeah. But it's nice. I've always tried to convince kids that play hockey or basketball, like, this is a great off-season sport for you, because mm-hmm. the physicality will help you in the corners, or even in basketball, it'll toughen you up on the court. It's really great to hear that both those coaches were on board, like saying, yes, we want you to do this, because nowadays that's often not the case.
Yeah.
What do you have any thoughts on that? Like, 'cause I know that's a bit of an aside there, but when I hear that your university coaches are saying yes, for sure, I love hearing that, where, like I said, nowadays that seems not to be the case anymore.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've got a kinesiology degree background. So I kind of have the athletic perspective, and then also the more science-based perspective. And for me, they both align. And then just growing up with my dad being a professional athlete, pretty much everything in my life has been do as much as you can for as long as you can. And that's one thing that early on my dad always, and my mom always made sure that we were playing as many sports as we could, because they wanted us mostly just to be active and healthy was the basis of that. My one sibling and I ended up being incredibly competitive, high-level athletes, and my other sibling just liked playing sports for fun. But my parents just at the bare minimum wanted us to be happy and healthy and active, and then also get to try everything that we wanted to try. So we had that opportunity, which we were very fortunate to have. And then once we started kind of honing in on the sports that we wanted to be a part of, my parents were very adamant that we don't just pick one sport. Luckily for me, there wasn't a ton of crossover in rugby and hockey. Like, there might be a month at the beginning of the season, a month at the end of the season in Ontario. So it was a fairly simple transition for myself. My brother, he is currently playing professional hockey in Denmark. So for him, it was a bit different. And his journey as a male hockey player, there's a lot of pressure at a very, very young age for them to pick one sport. Mm-hmm. Like, he was getting offers from summer league teams when he was like 13, 14, like, come play for us, come play for us. And until the draft year for the OHL, my parents said, no, you're not allowed to play hockey all year round. And I think for him and myself, that's part of the reason that we were so successful, and why we are the athletes that we are today. We got to try new sports, and as you said, there's a lot of crossover between hockey and rugby for myself. A lot of tactical aspects of the game, which aren't necessarily the same, but when you get to see different styles of play in different sports, your repertoire for creativity is so much larger, as opposed to just being stuck in one sport and you're only seeing for years on end one person's perspective. If you're playing on a university team, you've got one coach's perspective, so it's harder to build a repertoire. Whereas by them kind of pushing us into as many sports as possible, we built that. And then on the scientific side, you don't see burnout when kids are playing different varieties of sport. They get a break from, like, yeah, the kid wants to play hockey every day, all day long, but at some point you need a break to be able to kind of find that love again.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of even professional athletes these days that specialize at a young age. A lot of them look back on it and they didn't exactly enjoy the majority of their professional careers because that's all they'd known for 20 years.
Then what do you do when you're done?
Yeah, exactly. And then it's over. And the only thing you know how to do is that sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I've got a kinesiology degree myself, and a lot of what you're saying is kind of what I think as well, but I'm not the one, I guess, that pressures those kids to play hockey year round or basketball year round. And I'm always looking as a high school coach, just try and get players to come and learn and love the game, because I've been coaching 15 years at high school, and I'd say maybe in that time, maybe 4 kids have quit the team saying, you know what, I guess I really don't like it. I tried, and I'm like, yeah, that's fair. But just come try is my premise, and my promise is that if you love it, you'll stay. And if you don't, then no harm, no foul. You can walk away. But it's hard. It gets harder every year to try and recruit players in New Brunswick, at least.
And that's a great perspective from a coaching side as well. If you encourage your athletes to stay, but if they don't want to, then there's no pressure on them from you. Yeah. And a lot of times the pressure from coaches and parents and stuff not only affects their love for a game, but also their mental health, which is nothing a child needs to be a part of at that point in their life.
100%. So you spoke a little about your dad. So you come from a great athletic pedigree. Your dad was in the NHL. Your cousin Brett, who was a friend of the pod, he was on a little while ago. He played for Team Canada. You talked about your cousin getting you interested into rugby. How much of your family, what was their influence on you? Like, you talked about your parents wanted you to be well-rounded and healthy and athletic. When it came to that decision, like, okay, I'm a rugby player, I want to try out for Team Canada, what was their influence from family? Like, what were they saying to you?
I come from a very, very, very athletic family. Like, I would say that I'm probably one of the least athletic people in my family.
Wow.
And Brett's been on the national team. My dad's a professional hockey player. My cousins are on the female water polo team. Cool. They're sisters. Lots of hockey players, all that stuff. So I wouldn't say pressure to be an athlete, but there's a lot of competitiveness around it, and a very competitive family. When towards the end of my hockey career at university, I was just, even at the end of the rugby season that year, I was so tired. I hadn't been involved in that level of sport in my entire life. My body was starting to break down, and then I immediately jumped into hockey season, didn't even take a break. Played the whole season, had I had a concussion through that season, and just by the end of it, I talked to myself, and I was like, okay, something needs to change, or in a year's time, I'm not going to be playing any sports. And I had burnt out from hockey. I was done. And I knew that. So for myself, it was a very, very easy decision. And I made that decision in the span of a couple days. I was just like, okay, this is what I need to do. So I went to my parents and I was like, I just told them, I was like, look, I can't keep going like this. I can't play two sports at a time anymore. Um, I think that I'm going to email my coach, my hockey coach, and say that I won't be playing next year. And my parents' only response was, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. Why don't you just take a week to think about it, make sure that's what you want. And if that is, then we support you. Do what you need to do.
That's awesome.
So I was like, okay, I can do that. And then I waited about 2 days and I went back to them and I was like, this isn't going to change. I'm going to send the email. Like, I don't want to wait anymore. And they're both like, all right, have at her. So I think my mom and my dad helped me write the email. We sent it off. And then I got a positive response from my coach as well, saying, thank you for letting me know. I appreciate the time that you have given us and all the best. And I'll see you around at school.
That's great. Like you hear so many coaches that don't respond like that. So good on him for being very respectful and appreciative of your time. That's can be rare nowadays. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I definitely got lucky.
I love the multi-sport athletes. I love hearing those stories, and something, in my opinion, we spoke about already. It's something that's slowly fading out. One of the things that I've always had an issue with, and I don't know if you want to talk to or not, is kids that play hockey or basketball, or they have rugby's not their main sport. Mm-hmm. I had a kid a few years ago who had 2 concussions in hockey, and he was in grade 10, and he was saying all year, I'm going to play rugby. And I'm like, that's awesome. And about a month before the season, he said, Mom, my parents won't let me play. And I said, oh, why not? And he goes, well, I had 2 concussions. I said, in hockey? And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, did they tell you to quit hockey? And his response was, well, no, I can't do that. And he's, he's still playing. I'm like, okay, whatever. But like, sometimes I forget where we are. I forget that I'm in Canada, and that thought process. Like, I grew up playing hockey as well, coached hockey for a number of years, but I guess I get confused sometimes as to why all of a sudden over the last 10 years, the way of the multi-sport athlete, in my opinion, is just athlete, somebody that plays more than one sport, is kind of going wayside. Some are scared that they're going to get hurt. They don't want to get hurt unless it's in their main sport, or, like you said, coach says that you're going to go to the NHL, so you can't do anything else. And what are your, we talked about it a little bit, but can you dig a little deeper on, I guess, personal thoughts on all that, and injuries, and the not safety of rugby, because rugby is a violent sport, not violent, but it's an aggressive sport. I often argue that it's safer than hockey because you don't have gear and you have to do things properly because you have to protect other people as you tackle them. Can't hit from behind. You don't have a stick. You don't have skates to stomp people, So can you talk about that as a professional national team player?
Yeah. I come in to that conversation a lot with parents of young kids who parents are thinking about putting their kid in rugby and are concerned about that. And like you said, arguably hockey and football and other collision sports are less safe. And that's been proven. And it's because they have equipment. People and kids and adults, everyone in equipment, you feel invincible. So you are more willing to go into a contact area at a higher velocity than you would when you don't have equipment. So the impacts are a lot higher and a lot more dangerous. And there is scientific basis for that as well. And so when parents talk to me about that, that's what I try to tell them is rugby is an extremely, extremely controlled sport. We're taught from a very, very young age to control our bodies. Because the flip side of that is I'm not going to hurt someone else if I go in out of control. I'm going to hurt myself.
Sure.
You can only hit someone as hard as you're actually capable of hitting them. And especially in Canada now, it's so focused on safety in the contact area. And there's that graded integration for youth getting into contact. And we definitely make a strong case for making sure that they are taught very, very well before they get into that situation. So yeah, I would agree that rugby is a much safer sport than football and hockey. You do see injuries, obviously,
Mhm.
and there's certain situations where it's not going to be safe. But if we do the best that we can to make sure that the people playing rugby are given the tools they need to be safe, then the hope is that that will continue. And also, I think the culture around rugby helps that as well. It's a sport of camaraderie. Like
Mhm.
you're playing against someone, but you're also playing with them at the same time. Like you're trying to make the flow of the game happen, um, and you can't do that if you're headhunting,
Yeah.
right? Um, so yeah, it's. I believe that rugby is a lot less violent and unsafe than people who don't know what it is
Yeah.
think it is.
Fear of the
Um,
unknown.
yeah, exactly. So that's all I try to say is, look, your kid's more likely to get injured and have head injuries and stuff like that in a sport where they're wearing equipment than rugby, and they're taught life skills in rugby,
Yeah.
and um, I think it's the greatest sport in the world. I'm a little bit biased, but
I think
that's
that's
just my
fair.
personal opinion.
Let's talk a little bit about your rugby here. You were member of that 2014 squad at Rugby World Cup in France, an amazing silver medal win. Like I still remember that Magali Harvey try, like just unreal. Oh, can you talk to us about, I guess, what were the atmosphere was like over there in France? Maybe some goals and expectations you had for yourself, and finally, I guess, what was it like to beat France on their home turf in the semis? Yeah, I get there's a huge smile on your face right now. So.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, as far as goals for myself, I was just happy to be there. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. That was my first year on the national team. We went in and everyone's like, oh, like nobody took a second look at us. Everyone's like, no, Canada's not going to do it. Like, they're not even a threat. And then we started winning and winning and winning. And then they were like, okay, we were wrong. Yeah, playing France in that game. I mean, I didn't play in any of the finals games, which at that point I was totally happy with. I was just in shock and awe at the fact that I was even there. And I was on the bench, a nervous wreck. I am, there's 2 games in my life that I have been nervous for, and it was those 2 games, and I didn't even play in them. I was a mess. In the last game against England in our round robin, Gary was like, okay, Books, go warm up. And I was like, what? We were tied. And I was like, what? And he was like, you're going in. I was like, you can't put me on. We're tied. You can't put me on. And he's like, you're going to be fine. Go warm up. And I was like, okay, if you say so. But yeah, it was crazy. I've never been in a situation like that. And like beyond the fact that we made it to the finals, the France crowd is wild. Like obviously they're supporting France and like they're the craziest fans, but they also just love good rugby. Like we were scoring against France and they were cheering just as loud for us as they were for France.
That's cool.
And as far as that game went, the headlines in all of the newspapers were the France scrum is going to dominate the Canadian scrum. Canada doesn't stand a chance. All this stuff. And I remember Francois in one of our practices leading up to that game, he's like, I keep saying, he's got a French accent. I don't have a very good French accent.
Francois
Ratier.
Ratier, okay. That's what I was
Um,
thinking that, yeah.
Yeah. He was like, yeah, I just keep saying it's going to be a really hard game. It's going to be a really hard game. Like France is very strong. Their scrum's very strong. He's like, but I don't mean any of it. I'm poisoning them. I'm poisoning them with words.
A little manipulation.
Yeah, 100%.
Nice.
And France just came into the game thinking they were going to walk all over us. And that was kind of the culture that we had built going into the World Cup was we're the underdogs. Not only does every other country think that we're the underdogs, our own country doesn't think we're going to perform.
I
Like we didn't, at the time, we didn't feel like we had much support. And no one was looking at us. So we were like, we're doing this. And it was just momentum from game one. And we kept going and going and going. And then after the third game in our round robin, everyone started watching. Like, holy crap, they just tied England in a World Cup. And then we beat France, and they're like, holy crap, they just beat,
These
I think
girls
they
are
were
for
number
real.
2 at the time. Yeah,
Wow.
this is crazy. So we started with not a ton of people watching us. And then by the end of the tournament, their pubs were full of people. We were getting pictures of people watching the game. And like, rugby isn't the biggest of sports in Canada. So there's like 50% of the people in the pubs are watching and cheering, but they have no idea what's going on. They're just excited because we're
Yeah.
doing so well.
Yeah.
It was a whirlwind. It was so exciting.
That's awesome. So 2014, 6 years ago, you fast forward 3 years to the 2017 World Cup. It turned out different. You didn't get a silver medal, but what were some differences there that you noticed as a player?
It was definitely very different. I think we just had a lot more pressure on us to perform. We were feeling a lot more pressure from all sides, from ourselves, from coaches, from Canada. It was just a lot more pressure to perform, and I think it got to us for sure. It was a hard couple weeks at World Cup, and it was a real struggle. It was a very different look than 2014. 2014 we came in, no one was looking at us. We were excited. We were like, we're coming for you. And then 2017 everyone was looking at us. What's Canada going to do? How are they going to perform? Can they back up what they did at the last World Cup, or was it a fluke? All those kind of thoughts. And I think that pressure definitely broke us down a little bit. And it was just a bit more of a struggle. We had a tough game against Wales. And there wasn't anything we could do right in that game. And I think that definitely didn't help our morale at all. And it just made the next game a little bit harder. And then we ended up losing to New Zealand. I know personally for me, it definitely wasn't the peak of my own career. I didn't perform. I wasn't having as much fun. And it was just a much harder tournament. But that being said, we came 5th.
Yeah.
Like,
that's not a bad result.
We're the 5th best team in the world.
Yeah.
It's not bad at all. I think anyone would be happy to be there. It was just the way we got there wasn't the way we wanted to get there. And I think we definitely underperformed for what we were capable of, or for what our expectations were for ourselves.
Yeah. The expectations were a little higher for you after 2014. And but if it had been the other way around, if you had to finish 5th in 2014 and silver in 2017, it might be a little different tune, right? So,
yeah.
All right. So I'm not sure, Tyson, if you've listened to any pods, but in the middle, I do this thing called Quickfire, and I might have to rename it because I've got a series of about 20 questions, half rugby based, half personal based. Okay. And it's kind of just to get a sense of you. Now, I've had a couple people say you need to rename it because I'm thinking more on these questions than the other ones, but that's not what it's intended for.
Okay.
So they're supposed to be a little fun.
Yeah.
All right. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Question 1. What's the best team you ever faced?
The best team I ever faced. This is not quick by myself at all. The best team immediately comes to mind is New Zealand. And I think that's more like a mental block for our team than anything. But yeah, they're always tough.
That's fair. Any New Zealand team's probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Who's the best player you ever faced?
Probably JC Murphy.
Okay. This one, the toughest player you ever faced. And I always say this is when you look up, it's a one-on-one, they have the ball, and you're praying that they trip before they get to you. Anybody?
Olivia DeMerchant.
Oh, good New Brunswick girl.
Yeah.
Well done.
I've never liked tackling her. I've spent too much time having to do it.
All right. I think I know the answer to this one. 7s or 15s?
15s.
Hockey or rugby?
Rugby.
Sorry, Jeff, if you're listening. Best match you were ever a part of?
Best match that I was ever a part of.
That's semis.
I've got a two-sided answer for this one. So
Yeah.
France 2014, when we won against France.
Yeah.
But I wasn't actually playing in that game. So a game that I actually played in would be in my last year of university, us against Guelph. St. FX against Guelph in the final.
Yeah.
I think we had a period of 30 minutes in the first half with no whistles. It was just a really, really good game and a great atmosphere. I think we had 8,000 plus fans. It was just awesome.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
What is your favorite rugby tradition?
Beer after the game.
All right. Who's the best team you played with?
Best team I played with. I would say that currently Canada team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're ranked 3rd in the world.
Yeah, it's an exciting team.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
What's your rugby nickname?
Most people call me Tice or Tyson, and a few people call me Books.
Okay. Nothing, no fun ones, just little variations off your name.
Yeah, nothing super fun.
Who's the player that you love to smash the most?
Love to smash the most.
It looks like you have a few going on there. So some people have a hard time singling out to one person. So I will allow, if it's like a specific position you like to take on.
I think the person that, and it's partly because she's also always challenged me a lot. And we've always just kind of been in a constant battle because we play the same position, and it'd have to be Emma Taylor.
Okay. Emma Taylor. All right. Any rugby superstitions?
No, I'm not a superstitious person.
Okay. All right. 3 people you would take on a golfing weekend.
A golfing weekend.
Yeah. Are you a golfer? Hacker?
For fun.
Okay. So any 3, it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be rugby players. They don't have to be alive. Just a little bit of personality. Who would you enjoy taking out on a weekend golfing trip?
A weekend golfing trip, huh?
Or shopping, like I don't know what you do for fun.
Not shopping. I'm more apt to golf than shop.
All right, there. We'll stick with shopping.
Paco comes to mind. Karen Pacan.
Yeah, she was on earlier. She's pretty funny.
Golf with.
She would be. She was a hoot. I laughed a lot with her.
Yeah, she's fun. I'm not sure if she's a golfer. So if she's not, it'd be fun to see her do something she's not good at.
Plus, you'd have somebody that you would beat for sure.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not good either.
Okay.
2 more. My dad, he could teach us how to do it.
That's fair.
He's a very good golfer. And probably my brother, because I don't get to see him very much. He's overseas playing.
Yeah, you say he's in Germany?
He's in Denmark.
Denmark, okay.
Yeah.
All right. What is the most used app on your phone? You're a TikToker, aren't you?
I like to watch TikToks. I've never made a TikTok before. Okay. I don't even know how to do that. But probably TikTok at the moment.
Endless scrolling? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What's your go-to food?
My go-to food. I love a good stir fry.
Okay. Chicken, steak, shrimp?
I don't eat meat, actually.
Veggie stir fry.
Coconut red curry at the moment is my favorite.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Chips or cookies?
Chips, 100%.
What kind?
All dressed or dill pickle.
Oh, that's a good mix. French fries or onion rings?
French fries. Although I do enjoy a good onion ring.
But
definitely
you're
French fries.
More likely to go to the fries, all right.
Yeah.
French fries or poutine?
Whew.
You're not an East Coast girl, so I can understand if you just say French fries, but
I'm not like full East Coast, but I'm kind of close.
Sure. Yeah.
Poutine.
All right. What's your favorite beer?
Favorite beer? We got a good Phillips Brewery out here. I kind of like Phillips Brewery.
Okay. What's a guilty pleasure?
Just laying around and doing nothing for more than a necessary amount of time.
I get that. Where's the best place for a post-match beer?
The Couch and Piggies Rugby Club.
Can you say that one again? The couch.
Couchin.
Couch. Oh, okay. I thought you said the couch at Piggy's Rugby Club.
Oh, no.
Okay. What series are you binge watching now?
Well, I just restarted Grey's Anatomy, starting it from the beginning. So.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite movie? Grey's Anatomy.
My favorite movie is Good Will Hunting.
Ah, nice one. All right. 3 left. Who would play you in the Netflix movie of your life?
Netflix movie of my life. Oh man. Who's tall and blonde?
Cameron Diaz?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Okay. Who would play the leading opposite?
Leading opposite. Someone sassy, probably. Who's sassy? I don't know. Sandra Bullock.
Oh, okay. She's fun. What would the movie be called?
I have no idea.
We might cycle back to that. I might see if we can get you to come up with something later on.
Okay,
right.
I'll keep it in mind.
All right, we got a few questions left before we're done here. Tyson, I guess I get a feeling I know some of this who it might be, but who had the biggest impact on you as a player? It's probably more than one. You've named a few people already, but who comes out of those people that really helped you in your rugby journey and got you to where you are today? Like, who are some of those people?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple. So first of my parents, my mom was also a high-level athlete, and they were just very good at pushing us, but keeping us grounded at the same time. And one of the turning points in my athletic career was a conversation I had with my dad when I was I think I was 12 or 13. I came out of a tryout, and I was trying out for the team, an age group ahead. This was for hockey. And I knew I was on the team already, and I was just kind of screwing around on the ice and wasn't really paying attention, wasn't really trying very hard, and I came off the ice and my dad was like, "What was that?" I was like, what do you mean? He's like, "Well, like, what were you doing out there?" And I don't remember what my response was, but I was basically like, I'm already on the team. What does it matter? And he's like, "What do you want to do with hockey?" I was like, "Well, I want to be on the Olympic team." And he's like, "So you think that screwing around in a tryout that doesn't actually mean anything is the way to get there?" And I was just kind of like, "What?" And he's like, "If you want to get there, you need to practice every chance you get and be your best every single chance you get. Whether the people around you are as good as you or if they're better, you need to always give it your all."
Great advice.
And I vividly remember that conversation and him being like, "You're not going anywhere if you keep doing that," just straight up. And that's kind of stuck with me all through all of my sporting endeavors. And it's what's pushed me. If I don't try hard, no matter who's around me, then what's the point? If that's where I want to be, if I want to be the best that I can be, gotta work my ass off. Sorry for swearing.
That's great. Good on him for saying that to you too. There's a lot of parents that would just shy away from that conversation, I think.
Yeah. And then I started playing club for Aurora Barbarians in Ontario. And my coach was Kevin Jones, and he was just someone that knew how to push me. He figured out very early on that the best way to push me is to tell me I can't do something. So he spent the better part of 3 or 4 years telling me that he didn't think I could do anything. But at the same time helping me set goals and achieve those goals. So it was a really good balance of him being like, "Nah, you're not going to do that."
Is he a sports psychologist too?
Yeah, probably. So he was someone that was definitely influential and taught me how to push myself in situations where it's a bit more difficult to push myself. But also kept me humble and just was very good at pushing me the way that I needed to be. And then someone I always looked up to from when I was really, really young, and someone's name who I always heard was Kelly Russell, and how good she was, and how just unreal she was. And then playing with her, she is. So someone, I just always heard her name, and that everyone talked about how good she was. And I was like, I want to be that good.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be as good as Kelly Russell. So she was always the person that I looked up to as an athlete. And then now just all my teammates, everyone works so hard, and at the same time as competing for a position, works really hard to make our team better and make everyone around them better. And that's one of my favorite things, is being a part of a team and everyone working hard to make everyone else better. So yeah, those are the people that inspire me and make me who I am.
That's awesome. I love that. That question, this question coming up, and the next question, I think, are the three favorite ones that I ask.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is, I think I know what your answer will be, but I definitely want you to go out here. What are your thoughts on what makes a great team player?
For myself, the best team players are the people that try to build everyone around them. I want my teammates to help me, and I want to be able to help my teammates in a way that we're pushing each other to be the best that we can be. And if that ends up meaning that someone I've pushed steals my spot, then I think I've done my job. I don't want anyone to steal my spot, and I'm certainly not going to let them. But if we're battling against each other and that person comes out on top, and I've helped them in some way get there, I feel like as a teammate, I've done my job. And then just working together, like, yeah, we're competing for spots, but at the same time, we're on a team. We need to work together, and we need to trust each other and know that that person has our back.
Yeah, that's good. I like that one. Is at the end of the day, with rugby's arguably the ultimate team sport. Right? Mm-hmm. You have 15 people on the field at a time, and you need everybody working together in order to achieve your goal. So whatever way you can make that team better, good on you, right? So
yeah, it takes 15 people to make a team, but it takes one person to ruin it.
Absolutely. All right, so I like this one as well. A lot of people have a hard time answering this, but we'll see here.
Okay.
As a rugby player, what do you want to be remembered for?
Hitting people.
Oh, that was quick.
I really like hitting people as hard as I can, and that's what I want to be remembered for.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, right. Yep. Just smash them.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so I got a couple left here. I'm going to apologize in advance. I believe, if my math's right, you're nearing the end of your 20s.
Yeah, I'm 29.
29. How many years do you think you see yourself playing rugby? Like, how much do you have left in the tank?
Oh, I'm so bad at planning. I'm so not a planner. I mean, after the 2017 World Cup, I thought I was done after this World Cup. But now that we're a year out from this World Cup, I'm like, I'm playing forever. I'm having so much fun right now. I'm kind of at the peak of my career. The way I see it now is it doesn't make sense for me to retire. Knock on wood, I've never had a serious injury. Yeah. And as long as I keep going the way I'm going, I'm going to keep playing as long as I still love it. That for me is the biggest thing. If I still love it, I'll keep playing. I don't care how well I'm doing or how good I am. If I don't love it anymore, I'm done. And I'm totally happy walking away at that point. But at the moment, it doesn't seem to me like that's going to be anytime soon.
It's kind of like what happened with hockey, right? You just, all right, yeah. I'm burnt out, I'm done. Do you want to go back and play hockey again someday, do you think? Or is it still not your...
I love playing rec league. Yeah. I'll play rec league forever. Okay. I have no desire to play competitive hockey ever again.
I think that's fair. I think that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right. When you do hang your boots, not to put you on the spot, because you're saying you don't think that far ahead, and you've got a kinesiology background. Yeah. What do you think you want to do when you're done? Do you want to get into coaching? Do you want to get into psychiatry, like sports psychiatry, into athletic therapy? Like, where do you think you're going to go?
I do have a kin degree. I am not sure that anything I have planned for the future is going to be super relevant to it. It would definitely support what I'm kind of having in mind. I've done all my training for firefighting. So at the moment, that is definitely the number one end goal. But I also really, really enjoy the field that I'm currently working in at. I work in a group home with kids with special needs and
Oh,
behaviors.
good for you.
So that's something I really enjoy as well. And it's kind of something I just fell into and have done well at. So I have many, many options, but yeah, as you've said, I'm not a huge planner. So at the moment, I'm happy where I'm at. I have ideas for the future, but I don't know where I'm going to end up.
And it's a long ways off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, good on you. That's working where you do right now. It's I imagine it's very challenging, but it's also probably extremely rewarding for you as well,
Yeah,
and
totally.
definitely
It
for
can
those
be.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The kids are great.
that's awesome. All right, last thing. Actually, you mentioned about your firefighter. That I find it. I don't even know what the term is. I don't want to say funny, but I don't know how many guests I've had on that they're either a firefighter now or they're training to be a firefighter for when they're
Yeah.
done. And the second most common job after rugby would be real estate. Of the
Ah,
people, yeah, I know. I was like one
interesting.
extreme to the other, right? So, that's just the 40 guests I've spoken to. Those are the kind of different areas that it's looking like. Oh, firefighting makes sense. The camaraderie, the togetherness. Real
Yeah.
estate is like, oh, okay.
Where'd that come
Kind of
from?
went completely the other way there. All right, last one here, Tyson.
Yeah.
Any great rugby stories you can share with us? Something fun, something enjoyable, something where you can throw a teammate under the bus. It's entirely up to you.
Oh man, that
I
I
know you
can
probably have
share.
dozens, but
Ah, man, there's so many.
what
I
was a team bonding thing that you did in 2014 at the World Cup? Did you guys do any sites and
Team bonding. Oh, we did. But I'm gonna jump to our tour to New Zealand.
okay,
One of the coolest things that we got to do was experience Maori culture and learn about it and what it means to be Maori. Um, and we got to experience a welcoming ceremony. Um, and that was probably one of the coolest experiences of my life, getting to experience what it means to be Maori and to go through a welcoming ceremony and being allowed to be or them inviting us to be a part of that was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced.
yeah, that'd be really cool to take part in for sure.
Yeah.
I've been in Screeched In and from Newfoundland before, but I imagine they're a little different, right? So,
I've never been screeched in.
oh,
I'm a little intimidated by it. I don't know if I want to experience that.
I've got one up on you though, so that's good. All right. Well, listen, Tyson, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us,
Yeah.
and best of luck right now and preparing for the 2021 World Cup. And I and many other Canadians can't wait to see the girls take the pitch and get back to rugby. So, thank you for your time, and have yourself a great day.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers. Well, thank you very much, Tyson. That was a lot of fun. Had a really good conversation with you. It was great hearing your story. Great hearing you talk about family and rugby and hockey and Saint FX and Team Canada. It was a lot of I got a lot of joy out of our conversation, and I'm sure our listeners did as well. Really want to wish you the best of luck as you prep for that 2021 World Cup. And after your girls win, I want you back on talking about the experience of that tournament. Got a few names up next. I chatted with Gordon McCrory about a week and a half ago. His pod's in the queue, getting ready. His will be next weekend. I had a great conversation with Mackenzie Thomas last night, who plays in England, and it was a lot of fun as well. You get to hear Gordon and Mackenzie sing a little bit in theirs, which is nice. I'll be chatting with Katie Sadler next week. Kyle Bailey, we're still trying to find that time. Marissa Pace is coming up soon, as is Jonathan Kaplan. And Harry Jones and I have finally nailed down a time, and we're going to chat on Wednesday to kind of go through things. So we got a lot of names on board, and Maria Gallo is there as well. And there's also a lot of others that have confirmed that they want to get on. It's just a matter of let's find a time where it meshes with my schedule of teaching and their schedule of training and working and everything else. So if you have anybody else, like David Castle's been great on Twitter. He's offered, why don't you try and get this guy? Why don't you try and get this girl? And so sometimes it's nice to have my memory jog with some of these great athletes. So if you think of somebody else that you want to hear from, drop me a line and I'll do what I can. All in all, I do want to thank all the people that listen or watch the pod. What has been awesome is this past week in Canada, it's our first time out of 42 or 43 pods that we've reached number one in Canada. And that's nothing to do with me. That's to do with all my guests and what they're saying. And then even more important is to all of you who are listening and spreading this word. So I think there's been a lot more reshares and retweets and repostings of pods and sending to people. And we got to keep doing that because these athletes need the recognition. Rugby is a niche sport in Canada, but we can make it more of a niche sport. We want more people involved. We want those grassroots levels to grow. And a great way to do that is to have people, have kids, have families, have parents who are sometimes scared of the game, listening to these stories about rugby so that they can get inspired and maybe fall in love with it as well. So thank you very much to the fans. Listeners, sorry, not fans. I'm not a hero. I'm just a regular guy with a microphone. But I want to thank you all for being listeners and resharing these stories because it is important for Canadian rugby. So keep it up. As always, got to say thanks to Ben Sound Music for supplying us with our opening and closing tunes. And as I said, feel free to request topics, people. I want to hear from you if you want me to ask some specific questions to some of these guests because my brain gets so far, but then maybe you have a different idea for different questions that you'd like to hear answered. Maybe it's not for a specific guest, but maybe it's just a generic one that I haven't thought of. So drop me a line and let me know if there's a question that you think would be good to ask. So saying that, we're going to sign off. And as always, this is Jamie. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane, and most importantly, keep on rocking.